Your name, sir?
I'm Max Obuszewski. I'm with the Pledge of Resistance, Baltimore.
And Max, why is it important for you to be here tonight at this demonstration down here in McKeldin Square in the center of Baltimore?
Well, anybody that's been following this this merry-go-round in Afghanistan should be here. General Petraeus told us something to the effect of we've got it under control, things are going in the right direction, and because he said that, he's now the head of the Central Intelligence Agency. any unbiased observer would tell you Afghanistan, corruption. I don't care if you get rid of the Karzai regime, bring in another regime in Afghanistan, there's going to be corruption. There's a vicious drug trade. This latest incident, the story's slowly coming out, and I think they've been trying to cover this up. But this poor soul had done 3 tours of duty in Iraq. In one of those tours, he suffered from traumatic brain injury, and then they sent him to Afghanistan. And I mean, anybody that heard about this incident or saw some of the photographs knew immediately whoever did it was crazy, absolutely crazy. I can't blame him though. I blame the people who engineered this whole mess, who took us into Afghanistan in 2001. We had a demonstration not far from here in October of 2001, and we just got the word that they were going to invade 2001. We were at the War Memorial that day trying to stop. We knew the war was coming, we tried to stop it, we failed. But this is 11 years, 10 years later, and they're still there, they're still killing people. We're bringing democracy to Afghanistan. We're closing rec centers in Baltimore. I just met with Joan Carter Conway, senator, at the Progressive Summit on Monday night. We were talking about wind power. She says, well, there's no money. I said, well, the money's in the Pentagon. Well, I'm not a federal legislator. But we all have to take on this responsibility. We're closing rec centers. Pensions here from both the police and the fire people are going to have their pensions cut. There was an agreement made. I can't blame our city for doing this because they don't have the money. The money keeps going to the Pentagon. We citizen activists have to do something about it, and that's why I'm here today.
And somebody else just brought up this whole thing with the Postal Service.
Exactly.
You know, they underfund it, and now they want to privatize it.
Exactly, right.
But this money that we waste in Afghanistan and these other wars, we could take care of these things.
Absolutely. I don't have to tell you, but we have infrastructure in this city that's falling down all over the place, whether they're bridges, water mains, schools. My friends who are actually teachers tell me that people are afraid to go into the bathrooms. They're so dilapidated. They don't know what's going to come out of the water faucet. And we're arguing amongst each other, amongst friends, when we know where the money is. We know this is a right-wing plot. Destroy the unions, bring down everybody working for slave labor, support the 1%. This is a plan. We, the people, have to stop this. We can't allow this to continue. Whether it's Wisconsin, whether it's Maryland, whether it's Ohio, Virginia, everywhere it's going on.
In my time, President Eisenhower warned the American people of the undue influence of the military-industrial complex. This is back in the mid-50s, Max. And it's gotten worse since then. Malachi McKeldin called it the military-industrial congressional K Street, the lobbyist complex. It's gotten bigger and fatter and greedier.
Exactly. Everyone's heard Eisenhower's statement, and as you say, it's gotten worse. It's also the one element you didn't mention was the educational part of that. Johns Hopkins University, we've got an applied physics laboratory that's a Navy lab that gets like $800 million. I was on a conference call yesterday. Medea Benjamin was on the call because she has a book coming out on drones. She's actually going to be speaking here in Baltimore May 5th on drones, and we're also going to have a forum at Johns Hopkins University, the Homewood campus, because the Applied Physics Laboratory is doing drone research. This forum on campus is going to be sometime in April. And what did Medea say? They're doing the same thing. They're putting in every congressional district, if possible, something to do with drones. And as you well know, once you have something in your congressional district, well, it now becomes jobs. We need the jobs, so therefore we can't close down, even though this drone research is killing 175 children in Pakistan. So that's another issue we're taking on. And we have now police departments that are wanting drones here in the United States. And I don't know what the casualty rate is, meaning with drones, but they're very inefficient. One of them, who knows what happened when it landed in Iran? Was it shot down? I don't think so. I think it just turned the wrong way or something. Who knows what's going on? So these are just so many of these issues, and everything comes down to money. I mean, right now there's quite a debate in the state of Maryland over a gasoline tax, because everybody knows, anybody rides on the road knows the roads need help. Well, we're arguing amongst Democrats in Maryland, in Baltimore. Well, the money's in the Pentagon. That's the money we have to get. We have to cut Pentagon spending. Cutting Pentagon spending, we're going to be saving soldiers' lives. I mean, I had a letter published in the Baltimore Sun. It cost $1.5 million for a soldier over his lifetime or her lifetime if that poor soldier comes home with PTSD. $1.5 million just to provide health care. So what's the military trying to do? Is deny soldiers that they have PTSD. I mean, the empire is collapsing. Let's save it before its total collapse.
Anything else, Max?
I've said my piece, Bill. I appreciate you being out here again.
Thanks so much.
No problem.
Your name?
Merryjessica Fuerst.
And Merryjessica, we're at this demonstration here at the McKeldin Square. And why are you here?
Well, I'm here representing the Answer Coalition, which is Act Now to Stop War and End Racism, and we stand for the full, withdrawal of troops in all, foreign countries. The war in Afghanistan is, a colonial war in which we're trying to subjugate the Afghan people.
No more war, y'all. Say streets. Y'all know rough X out. We here, y'all.
We're trying to subjugate the Afghan people. And especially with the recent 16 civilian Afghanis who died from a soldier with PTSD, it's more than time for us to be out of Afghanistan, completely out of Iraq, no mercenary private mercenaries, and protest and say it's time to end the war right now.
I think it's ironic, and I just pointed this out to Sharon Black. We don't learn from history. The Russians were in Afghanistan, and we armed the Mujahideen against them, which transformed to Al-Qaeda. We don't learn any from this, and the Russians eventually got kicked out too. They walked out, but they got kicked out. And it looks like we're following that pattern. We're going to follow it sooner or later.
Well, Afghanistan has a long history of revolutionary struggle and a long history of, strength amongst their people, and they refuse to be subjugated. I mean, it's long been said that Afghan is where empires go to die, and that's certainly true because they're, they know exactly why countries come to invade them, and that's to, take resources and make them for, colonial occupation. So, yep.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
Thanks. And your name, sir?
Lee Patterson.
And Lee, what group are you with?
I am with the Upper West Congress and the International Action Center and Occupy for Jobs.
And why are you here tonight at this demonstration?
I'm here because the recent atrocity of children and women in Afghanistan being killed by U.S. troops should call attention to everyone in this country that this war is totally unnecessary. It's just for the profits of the big businesses and the millionaires of Wall Street, it's not going to make the gas prices go down. In fact, it's going to make the situation in this country worse. We have billions of people in this country without homes, billions of people without health care, billions of people without education, billions of people without jobs. And the money that is being spent to wage genocide and war against the Afghan people should be used to employ people here in this country, house people, give people health care, feed people. We have too much going on with poverty and homelessness and other things happen in this country that people who pay taxes see their money going towards slaughtering women and children. And you have these soldiers coming home being hailed as heroes for what? What are they protecting over there? They're not protecting anything but the profits of Wall Street, big business. You know, they're making all kinds of money off of war, you know. And meantime, people here have no jobs, they have no housing, they have no health care, you know. Schools are closing, jails are opening up.
Recreation centers.
Everything being closed down. And people need to wake up and see what's really happening in this country.
And your name?
My name's Sharon Black.
And Sharon, what's the purpose of tonight's demonstration? We're down here at McKeldin Square, right in the center of Baltimore, where the Occupy movement had their situation.
Well, one thing, I'm a volunteer with Occupy for Jobs Network, and we're down here in a major downtown area in Baltimore to protest the recent U.S. massacre of 16 civilians, all unarmed. 6 of them, I believe, were children and babies, and we're outraged by that, and we feel like the money that they're spending on occupations could better be spent on jobs, education, and housing for people right here in Baltimore City. But particularly, we also have a message that these kinds of war crimes are a product of imperialism. They're a product of a system that has to use racism, has to demonize people to make these things palatable, to make these things possible. So it's part of the system that has spawned the kinds of horrific war crimes that we just witnessed in Afghanistan. So we think that anti-war activists, community activists, all of us should seize the moment to really say U.S. NATO out of Afghanistan, in fact U.S. NATO out of the world, out of Iran, stop the occupations in Palestine, you know, stop a new war in Syria. Wherever they want to start a war, we're saying no wars, because right now people right here in Baltimore, 50% of the youth don't have jobs. That money could be spent, the billions, actually the trillions that are spent on the Pentagon war budget could be spent here at home, really to make life livable for the people right here in this city.
On top of all that, Sharon, this war's been going on for almost 10 years, I think.
Yes.
And it's very, very expensive. The Russians got kicked out of there. The Russians got kicked out of Afghanistan. We should have known better. And we get in there and it's another quagmire.
Right. Well, you know, when you have occupations that are based on protecting the 1%, that is the Pentagon generals, the bankers, the billionaires, the oil millionaires and billionaires, then you have to justify such a thing. You have to really demonize the people in the region. You have to invent reasons to go to war. The whole Iraqi war, we knew, was based on the lie of weapons of mass destruction. You have to invent lies, and the product is you end up with war crimes. And this is not the only one, and it's not isolated. I mean, even today on the news, for instance, and one of the reasons why Occupy for Jobs were out here is that, you know, a lot of these young people, they're talking about PTSD, and they're talking about they're being deployed.
Spell that out for the audience, because I know you have a nursing background.
Right. Post-stress disorder. They're talking about many of these GIs have been deploying for not just one round of war, but you know, they're deploying time and time again, and they're under such kind of stress. Now, first of all, let me assert that none of that ever justifies these kind of war crimes. But the reason why people are redeploying and redeploying and redeploying is because there's an economic draft. Young people don't have jobs. If over 50% of the youth in this city do not have jobs, that's almost like a direct incentive for people to keep signing up and signing up for each tour. But I will repeat myself, it will never justify the kind of thing that we've just seen in Afghanistan, where somebody goes on a shooting spree and kills children and babies indiscriminately, civilians and unarmed people. So it's not a justification, but it's an explanation why so many people are forced in a country where joblessness is so so bad that people have to sign up for military duty just to even have a job. So it's a problem that has multifaceted. There's a question of imperialism, wars of occupation that shouldn't happen at all, and then a question of the economic necessities that young people in this country find themselves pressured into. So we're saying U.S., NATO, get out of Afghanistan. We're saying that all of the money that's spent on the trillions of dollars spent on the Pentagon war budget needs to be spent here at home. So that's our simple message. And so we're actually just out here to reach out to people passing by, to cars, and we're going to be continuing this fight right into the springtime. There is a national protest, a couple national protests that are very, very critical. The Democratic National Convention demonstrations to be set there. The G8 is coming now to Camp David, and I know the Occupy movement is targeting the G8. And there's also demonstrations that a number of us from Baltimore are going to be participating in NATO. NATO is coming to Chicago, so we're carpooling to all those events. And of course, the big thing that's right on the horizon, first and foremost, is May 1st. Many in the movement are calling for a general strike or calling for a work stoppage boycott. Come out, protest on all the issues. Immigrant rights is important, against racism, jobs. Really, it's 99% of the population needs to come out on May Day, which is a workers' holiday, to protest. So there's a whole, it looks like we're going to have a spring of struggle around the country, and Baltimore will not be left behind. And many of the people you see right here at this demonstration are representing groups and individuals who will be participating in all these fights.
Somehow, the American people don't seem to understand, Sharon, that if we did cut back on the military spending, we could take care of this Postal Service thing, which may be a bogus issue anyway. I mean, what they're doing with the postal workers. That could be taken care of.
We could provide health care for every single person without health care in this country, without a doubt. The closing of the post offices, that could all be resolved. There's no need to put 200,000 workers out of their jobs, or make it impossible for seniors to get their medicine, or make it impossible for people to get their monthly checks. I'm talking about the elderly and the poor who have no other option but to rely on the Postal Service. All of that could be changed if we didn't have trillions of dollars sucked down the sewer hole of the Pentagon. But not just the Pentagon. When you have billionaire and trillionaire bankers who don't pay nothing in taxes, who exploit the people, that is another issue, and certainly if we could extract the money that we deserved out of those institutions, then we could take care of the needs of the people. And of course, you're right, the post office is a very bogus issue. They've been literally destroying it, defunding it, and destroying it so that they could privatize it and dismantle a highly unionized workforce that has been the backbone of many in the community. So it's a multi-pronged issue.
And the Postal Service goes back to the founding of the country. It was always a public institution, and now they're going to privatize it. Reaganism. Right. They want to privatize public assets.
It reminds me a little bit, on some level, it reminds me of PATCO, but it's not just PATCO. It also, they went after the unions in Wisconsin, and I mean, there is a movement on foot by the 1%, the most wealthy in this country, to dismantle every gain that workers, poor people, young people have made, literally, from Social Security to unions to all sorts of rights. Civil liberties, civil rights. Right. They're rolling back all of it. And I think the only solution, and that's why a lot of people have been very inspired by the young people who have been the backbone of the Occupy movement, is, they have shown the way in terms of getting out here and struggling. And if you have to occupy something to keep it open, I know the workers in Atlanta, the Communication Workers of America, had a recent occupation to keep their jobs. I mean, we have to come together, and this is just, I think, the beginning in a battle that I think the people will win. If we did it earlier in the 30s and 40s, and we won unions and we won civil rights, a lot of that's all been eroded and taken away. And now we have to start that struggle again in the streets. I mean, they want to shove it into the ballot box and say, oh, vote for the Democratic Party, vote for this and that. But obviously that didn't help most people in this country in the last for years. So we're saying get out in the streets, you know, start getting your neighbors together. You know, if somebody's foreclosing a house on your block, you know, get in touch with Occupy Homes, and, you know, do something about it and defend their home. There's a lot of things. We're talking about tenants unions. We had a very, very productive meeting last night and begun a discussion with a lot of people in the community, a lot of homeless youth whose issues are very, very important for us to take up. So I don't know, but I think that we're greatly encouraged, and the war cannot be left out. The issue of the war is not something that you can separate from the economic issues of the 1% of the billionaires and trillionaires and them controlling everything. It's not just capitalism, it's also imperialism, the military face of the same system in a way, you know, that's, you know, trying to carve up and dominate the entire world. We have no interest anymore in these wars.
Anything else, Sharon?
No.
And what group are you with?
I'm a volunteer with Occupy for Jobs Network.
Occupy for Jobs.
Right. But I'm with 1,000 different groups that I work with, including All People's Congress, Workers' World Party, and a host of other groups, which I'm a proud member of all of them. And I do my best to spread myself very thin.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
War in Afghanistan, $5 a gallon. Wall Street's plan. No more war in Afghanistan. $5 a gallon. Wall Street's plan. No more war in Afghanistan.